Latham Saddler. Latham, running for Senate down here. Latham, welcome to the Doug Collins Show.
Hey, Doug, it's a treat to be on. Appreciate you having me.
Well, I'm glad to have you. It's been one of those interesting weeks. We've had a lot of folks on, a lot of guests across the board, especially speaking about this issue of Afghanistan. I guess before we get started, I mean, we're not just here in Georgia, we're all across the country. In fact, we just got off, producer just got off the phone with some folks who are listening to the network in California and all over the place. They may know there's a Senate race in Georgia, but they may not know Latham Saddler. So, Latham, I'll give you a few minutes here just to give us the short version of who you are and why you're running.
Yeah, Doug, really appreciate the opportunity, and it's good to connect on here. But it's been a few years since we saw each other, actually up in the Oval Office for the signing of the First Step Act, and that was a glorious day for our country. And thanks to you as the author of that, we got something great done for the country. And I compare that to what we're seeing right now, and it's just shameful. But we can get into that in a minute. Brief snapshot on me for your listeners. I'm a proud native son of Georgia. Was born in Atlanta. My mom's from a small town in South Georgia called Bainbridge. I went to the University of Georgia, was having the time of my life, and then 9/11 happened while I was there. It changed my life forever, as it did for all of us. And in my case, it led me on a pathway, Doug, to serving the military. It was a longer journey than I'd expect to get there because I wanted to become a Navy SEAL officer, and had a retired Navy SEAL tell me when I was 22 that it would never work out for me. So I ended up on a 6-year journey to make myself competitive for it. So I worked for a couple of years, got some life experience in New York City, and then went to Georgia Tech for grad school for international affairs. I learned Farsi and Dari. Dari is, of course, what 51% of Afghans speak. I ended up backpacking through all of northern Afghanistan as a civilian, and then got in the best shape of my life after coming home to the United States, and got selected by the Navy to become an officer and try out for the SEALs. I showed up to SEAL training and miraculously made it through. I was the grandpa of my class at 28, and I turned 29 when I was there, and had the time of my life, as I know was your experience in uniform. I did 8 years active duty. I deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. My final assignment on active duty, Doug, was up in the Trump White House as the Director for Intelligence Programs, managing the Black Ops portfolio, the small set of missions that require the President's approval. After the Secretary of Defense signs them, I was that guy at the White House that would make the recommendation after they came over from Madison's death. So loved my life and career in the military, transitioned out for family reasons. I've got a twin brother with Down syndrome who's a total stud. His name's Ashby, and he's going to come live with my wife and I and our 2 young boys one day. And so I knew I needed to change careers out of the military, came home to Georgia and to raise our boys, and 2020 happens. And everybody on your show, I think we all know that we can do better as a country than what we're seeing right now. And it's come to a head here this week, and it's been all the more affirming that we need country-first leaders in Washington. We've got a shortage of that right now, especially in the White House, and we're going to change that here in Georgia and beat Raphael Warnock.
Well, I think that's the goal here. I was told somebody today they were discussing this issue of the race and the issue of just the country in general. And I go to a lot of places. Of course, a lot of people still call. I see a lot of people, and they just come up to me because they remember it and they know. And we just start talking about it. And like one of the things you just brought up, and I want you to help me understand. I know you called for the resignation of Austin, Tech-Def Austin, and also for Billy as well. But and I agree with you completely on it. It's just a total lack of leadership. What bothers me the most, and I want to see from your perspective as a SEAL, me still being in the Air Force, I don't hear this commonality that we hear in the movies, we hear everybody else that we've always as Americans have done, and that's that no one is left behind. What do you think it is about this White House and frankly some of the senior leadership at the Pentagon that seems to have lost that concept?
Yeah, I just think, look, anybody who's experienced the military or is a close observer of this, Doug, I mean, the Pentagon has been off mission for a while now. I mean, this focus on all these other issues of critical race theory and teaching that, and this Marxist ideology that's seeping through our military, I mean, this is what happens when you have leaders that focus on the wrong things and are off mission. And I look at our leadership at the Pentagon. I mean, obviously the buck stops with Biden. Problem in that case, you and I both know we might be in a worse situation if Kamala Harris is president. Hard to believe that's where we are as a country. And then if you look at the Pentagon, I mean, you and I both know there needs to be a top-down investigation and overhaul of the Pentagon and how it operates. And when you look at the two leaders at the top right now, with Secretary Austin and General Milley, I mean, the fundamentals here are lost, all of them. I mean, the fact that they launched this thing at the height of fighting season and then got surprised that the Taliban actually came and toppled the country in a matter of days. I mean, these are the basics. Taking care of our equipment first and foremost. I mean, if somebody lost a weapon when I was in command of some SEALs, I would have been fired for one weapon. And we got billions of dollars in equipment over there going in the hands of our adversaries. And then you hit the most important point. I mean, the fact that we've left thousands of Americans there, just totally abandoned them, and then have to send the troops back to do a half-baked measure to secure them by making sure that the troops have to stay within the Kabul airport and can't go out like the Brits and the French to go and get our people. There's just no excuse for this. So the two of them, look, it's not personal. These guys have had long careers of service, and I get that. However, they've lost the confidence of the force. And you and I both know that you cannot lead our force if you've lost the confidence.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things we've got to look at here. And as we talk about this is a thing that bothers me. You've got the French and the Brits who are actually going out into Kabul, finding their people and bringing them to the airport. And Americans, I just did not understand this Pentagon understanding the other day. And you've been in the country, I've been in Iraq. We understand this situation to an extent. But the problem I don't get is when the Pentagon was asked about, are you going to go out? They said, well, we're securing the airport. That's one of the first things that you do in a operation. You secure the airport, and then you move out from the airport. You don't stay at the airport, especially Army troops. Air Force, okay, maybe I can see a little bit of our guys staying there because actually that's what we do. But Army, and I'm sure there's a special ops there. And look, did that make sense to you? Or do you think that, I mean, I'm honestly become convinced that they put spokesmen at the Pentagon and at state that are completely clueless to what's actually
You're exactly right, Doug. They are. And this is what happens when you have folks in these leadership positions, Doug, that live in a bubble. They got great and fancy degrees, so they're smart people, and that's great. But they see the world how they want it to be rather than how it is. And you and I have both been over there. We've seen the way a lot of the rest of the world operates, and it's harsh. And now we're seeing it all come to a head. I mean, and now Americans are witnessing every day this week what you and I have seen. And you know, I think it's time also to take stock and take inventory of how wonderful our nation is. I mean, the fact that there's this woke movement inside our country that is trying to tear down our history, tear down our Constitution, make it hip and cool to love America. I mean, if there's ever a time for Americans to wake up and realize how wonderful we have it here, just turn on the news. And you got Afghans clinging to the wings of jets that are going to fly at 30,000 feet. I mean, that's automatic suicide, but it shows the despair that these people face when you don't have liberty, when you face oppression every day. And the one thing that I'm sure you'll appreciate, Doug, is, you know, when you see the really emotional video of that Afghan mother handing her baby to American soldiers in uniform, you know, that just underscores to me, though, you know, one positive point here is the value of that uniform that you are wearing now and that I've worn before and that thousands of Americans are still wearing today or have worn. The fact that a mother would entrust her baby because she sees that American uniform and has hope in that. I mean, that's what we're all about. And we've got to go back in there, get our citizens out of there now. I'm concerned that every minute this goes on, you and I both know this is getting closer and closer to the worst hostage disaster we've ever faced as a nation. So it's time, we've got to get new leadership in there, and the time is now for decisive action.
Well, you hit on it, and I think this is one of the issues. You were going down the constitutional order of secession. I mean, I hate to tell you, for the American people today, here is your order of secession: Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Speaker Pelosi, and Patrick Leahy. I mean, and then you get Blinken, who Blinken is a Blinken idiot, as Secretary of State. I mean, even McCain, John McCain warned us about him. And this is the problem we have. One of the things this is my last question on Afghanistan, then I want to get back to Georgia and talk about some things here. But the Afghanistan issue, one of the things that is concerning to me that we're not seeing is we've had to send 7,000 back in. We've now set it back up to where we're being pushed, as you said, into this possible hostage situation. But the question is when we started seeing this go south, when we really, I mean, when you went I was actually on active duty last week, so we were sort of getting reports in, they went from 3 capitals to 10 capitals to 11 capitals, and by Friday, it was all, but gone. Was there, don't you think, working in the intelligence community, working in that side, that there would have been some idea that, hey, maybe we should start blowing up equipment. Maybe we should start, because I know we were doing air raids. We were doing sorties over Afghanistan. Why do you think we missed that?
Yeah, well, great question, and couldn't agree with you more on order of succession. I mean, that's just terrifying to see the top of leadership in our country right now. That couldn't be more bleak when you look at the leaders in this cast of characters. But hey, I've been asking the same question, Doug. I mean, why were we not okay? It's one thing to leave it, but at least destroy it. I mean, I'll tell you, we know this on our own missions. The critical equipment, if you can't get it out of there, you destroy it. And in this case, I mean, we couldn't have given them more equipment. And look, the final thing I'll say on this is I just don't know what else. When you look at Biden's policies and all the blunders, and two come to mind, the border and the humanitarian crisis there, and then now this humanitarian crisis. I mean, how many humanitarian crises can this administration orchestrate?
Maybe they're looking for a world record, a Guinness World Record. Hopefully, they'll never find it. But on the last point, the border is going to become a bigger issue because guess what? As long as it is porous, and now you have an Al-Qaeda training facilities all across Afghanistan and a funding source for the Taliban to go. Where are they going to come through? That's where they can come through, and they don't have to worry about it. And this is just an issue. A funny quote. I'm pretty sure you know Joey Jones. Joey's a good friend. He's on Fox. He's a good contributor of ours as well. He made a great comment the other day on our show. He said, we're talking about the equipment. He says, it really makes you wonder who supplied the Afghans better. Was it Charlie Wilson or Joe Biden?
John, no kidding. No, that's a very good point. Yeah, he's on it, man. That guy's on it all the time.
He is. He's great. All right, switching gears, Georgia. I mean, look, last year was a lot of things that I think come together to put a very liberal, very dangerous ideologue into the Senate. But one of the things, where do you see, as you're now crossing Georgia, and I know you've been, different places going and talking to people, what are you sensing besides the outrage? And because here's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that Republicans are going to get so outraged and this hair on fire about Biden and all this, that we're going to lose sight of actually communicating with voters about issues that are beyond just what they see on TV, but actually affect them day to day. Tell me what you're hearing from folks as you go around asking for their vote percentage and seeing what they're concerned about.
Yeah, great question, Doug. I mean, the issues that come to fruition the most, or come to surface the most on the trail. Number one is I'm meeting with small business leaders every day. Doug, they're still telling me, Latham, I can't find workers. This labor issue is a crisis. I can't compete with a free government paycheck. It's destroying my business. And Doug, a central piece of my campaign is, I say this all the time on the trail, we have got to change our messaging as conservatives, because we can stand firm all day, every day on our policies and on our values, but the left finds a way to outflank us on messaging. They take the high ground and they beat us, and it's maddening. And one of my missions with this campaign is to reverse that. And so I started thinking, after so many conversations with business leaders about this issue of not finding workers, a light bulb went off in my head, and I told my team immediately a couple months ago, I said, hey, we need to change the messaging on this. And every time this comes up, we need to say, dignity, not dependency. And what I mean by that is, as conservatives, we seek a limited government that creates economic opportunity for the American worker and therefore provides them dignity. And what we're seeing today is this massive government full of false hope and false promises that creates this moral hazard dependency on that government. And we as conservatives have to start asking folks, who's really seeking power? Is it the ones that want a smaller government that they want to manage that creates that economic opportunity and that dignity for the American worker, or is it the opposite? And I'll tell you, Doug, this is real personal for me. I've got a twin brother with Down syndrome. He works at Publix. We had to pull him out of work at the beginning of COVID because, we had no idea what this virus was or what it would do to him if he got it. And after a couple of months, we put him back to work, and that was in consultation with his doctor because we saw that something was missing while he was at home. And we sent him back to work, and we didn't check a box for unemployment or that we were afraid of him getting COVID because we see the dignity that he receives every single day in that job. So it's personal to me, and I think that that's being stripped from so many Americans today because of this dependency on our government. So that's a big one, number one. Number two, this woke movement that's seeping through every aspect of our life. I mean, Doug, I know you hear it too from conservatives about their free speech being under attack, but I'm even talking to moderates now that say, hey, Latham, I don't feel comfortable sharing my actual views anymore because I'm worried the woke mob is going to come after me or my business. And once again, we got to go back to the messaging here. It's not wokeism. I tell folks, we as conservatives have to call this thing what it is, and it's woke fascism, because the mindset of this movement is you will conform and you will obey, otherwise we'll ruin your life, ruin your family, and ruin your business. I mean, heck, I didn't even know what doxing was until a little bit before this campaign, where they post your personal information online so the woke mob can come and harass you and your family. And, you and I didn't put on the uniform for this country to come back to a woke America where any American should ever feel like they can't express their real views. I mean, what have we come to? So the bottom line is we got to fight back on this, and we need leaders to do it. And gosh, I'll tell you, I can't wait to get up there and do it.
Well, I think that's one of the thing is, luckily you got out of the military before you had to sit what I had to do about 3 months ago, and that was sit through my extremism training.
Unbelievable.
It was, and basically, and the problem was, here was a funny, and we'll end with this on this before I let you tell us about your campaign. The group that I sat down with was chaplains and lawyers. I happen to be both a lawyer and a chaplain. You talk about something, people calling the farce a farce from minute one. It was obvious, and in true military fashion, it went downhill quick. The people with the PowerPoint gave up almost. It was not good. But anyway, hey, we're running a little bit out, getting ready to close up a half hour here. It's been great having you on. Before I let you go, though, I always let everybody come on, especially if you're running for office. I know what it's like. Tell people if they are across the country where they can support you, how they can help you, where they need to go on social media. Give them all the details before we let you go.
Thank you so much, Doug. Well, look, my top line is I'm a country first, next generation conservative that can and will beat Raphael Warnock next year. Obviously, we need all the support in order to do that. Warnock's running around he's raised $10 million to date. So we've got to raise the money to take him out of that seat. And this matters to everybody across the country. So you can find out how to support us at LathamSaddler.com. It's kind of a weird name, I know. So it's LathamSaddler.com. And come and join the mission, and we're going to knock Raphael Warnock right out of that seat next year.
Well, that's great. Well, Latham, I look forward to seeing you more. And again, I would maybe have you back on at some point. We'll talk about the First Step Act. I think so many times it's not only just messaging, as you said, we're not passionate enough about caring for people, and that's what conservatives are supposed to be about. So, Latham, good luck out on the trail. Look forward to seeing you again, and look forward to having you back on the show soon, okay?
Amen, and thank you so much, Doug. God bless you.